The January 31st, 2018 agenda of the Missouri Public Service Commission. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
The first order of business is to approve draft minutes from the January 23rd agenda. Those were distributed in advance. Are there any comments, questions, or corrections?
No.
All those in favor of approving those minutes as drafted, please indicate by saying aye.
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 They are approved 5-0. We have one tariff and new order. That is in GR 2017-0089 in the matter of Liberty Utilities purchase gas adjustment tariff filing. We have before us a draft order establishing ending ACA balances, which is supported by staff's recommendations. No other party filed any opposition. As you can see in the draft order, there are some areas that for which there was under recovery, some where there was over recovery. These adjustments would true up those amounts. I believe that the draft order is consistent with our statutory obligations, our rules, and the facts presented, so I support the order as drafted.
As do I.
As do I.
All right. All those in support of that order, please indicate by saying aye.
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 That is approved 5-0. Thank you, Judge. Next, we have a case discussion in the Spire rate case. There are a few issues remaining, and unfortunately, I do not have my memo that sets those forth. Mine. My very dirty one. Can we take a moment? I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Oh,
You doing okay?
No, doing great.
well, Chase, I've got it here.
Did you show up at Scott Farms School last night? Deal.
Okay. All right.
For his 5th anniversary.
Judge, thank you again for revising the memo in light of our discussion last week.
Yes, thank you.
The first set of issues concerned income taxes, the appropriate amount of accumulated deferred income tax, the effects of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and a couple of sub-issues under that. My suggestion is that we take up all of those issues after the hearing February 5th, which is designed to deal with the effects. I'm sorry. It's designed to deal with the effects of the tax cut. Is everyone amenable to that approach?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So next, we turn to capital structure, and the first issue that needs to be addressed to deal with capital structure, at least in my view, is the gas inventory carrying charges, which is on page 8 of the memo. It's issue 3F. And I could essentially go either way on this issue, but I think whatever we decide on this issue affects whether or not we include short-term debt in the capital structure. I guess if the way that I would lean would be to include gas inventory carrying charges in the PGA for both MGE and Laclede, and then take that decision and apply it to the short-term debt issue. But I'll wait to see what other folks suggest.
I kind of took it similar to what your approach, but I started with the short-term debt, and I don't believe we should include short-term debt. So I want to run the gas inventory through the PGA or ACA, and follow that. So for both of those, that's where I'm on those two.
Okay, and I'm okay. Commissioner Root.
Yeah, I was with the company on the gas inventory carrying cost for yes, and I was no on the short-term debt.
Okay, so the issue we're on is whether to include gas inventory carrying charges in the PGA or in the capital structure. My understanding is Commissioner Kenny and myself are in support of including it in the PGA. Commissioner Rube, I believe you said that you wanted to run it through the capital structure. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman.
So I'm yes for the PGA. I'm in support of the staff's position.
Commissioner Sylvie.
Yeah, I will support the position of the chairman.
Okay. So then the second issue, and we've already touched on it a little bit, is should short-term debt be included in the capital structure? And consistent with the prior decision, I would say no, it should not be included in the capital structure.
Yeah, I agree.
Commissioner Root?
Yeah, I'll agree.
I'm
Commissioner
in
Coleman?
agreement.
Yep.
Okay. So then the third issue is what is the capital structure? And based on our prior decisions, I'm going to go with somewhat of a hybrid here. I think we should take staff's position of using the consolidated capital structure. And I think there's a number of reasons for doing that. It's Spire Inc. that issues the stock. Moody's and the other ratings agencies look to the parent for ratings. It's consistent with how we've handled KCP&L, and I also think that the capital structure suggested by the company at 54% is way too equity rich. It's significantly higher than what we have typically approved. So I think that we should use the consolidated capital structure, but we need to pull out the short-term debt. So those numbers would have to be reconfigured.
So, Mr. Chairman, you're saying, I do agree using the consolidated capital structure of Spire Inc. and not Spire, Missouri. So if we did that, we take the 4.1%, 4.16 cost of debt, and then we would not take, on the capital structure, we would not take Spire nor staffs. What we're going to do is take the entire Spire Inc. and have that calculated, and whatever that number is, that would be the capital structure. Is that what you're saying?
It's taking the consolidated capital structure and pulling out the short-term debt.
And then refiguring what that, based
Yes.
on common stock and preferred, okay. I
Yes.
understand. I do support that because I think that's we've trended towards that in the last KCP&L rate case using Great Plains, so I support that capital structure setup.
Commissioner Root?
No, I was with the company on using their exact capital structure.
Commissioner Coleman?
I support the staff's position here.
On consolidated capital structure?
Yeah.
And what about pulling out the short-term debt?
I'm in agreement with you.
Commissioner Sylvie?
Yeah, consolidated structure minus the short-term debt.
And so then the last issue related to capital structure is the actual cost of debt. And I think to be consistent, we should take staff's position, which is the Spire Inc.'s consolidated embedded cost of long-term debt which is in fact higher than the cost of debt advocated by Spire. But to be consistent, I think we need to take staff's position on that.
Yeah.
I concur.
Commissioner Roop?
I was still with the company.
I support staff's position.
I agree with staff position.
Okay. All right, so that takes care of capital structure. The next issue is rate case expense. And the only issue left to be resolved there is what is the appropriate sharing mechanism. Is that correct, Judge?
Yes.
And I'm going to support sharing 50-50 after we pull out the items that we discussed last week. I think that that's consistent with, if you looked at the issues that were presented in the case, I think roughly half of them were injected by the company, half by other parties. I think if you look at the positions that were advocated by the company, some of them were, I think, beyond that which was reasonable and I believe calculated to try to get us to some middle ground, not necessarily consistent with ratepayer interests. So I think 50-50 is a fair and just sharing mechanism.
Well, since no one else agreed with me that we shouldn't share rate case expense, I'm fine with the 50-50 since it's going to take place in.
Commissioner Roop?
Now, is that the same calculation that we used in previous rate cases that went through the Court of Appeals and the formula, or is that just a straight split 50-50?
It's a straight split 50-50. The sharing mechanism that we used in the KCP&L case tied the percentage to that which was requested and that which was awarded.
That would have come out to like 52 something and 48 something, or
I don't know the answer to that.
okay. I mean, I would prefer we use the same one that we've used in the past, but I think the percentages are well within the range. So the 50-50 is, if that's where the votes are, I'm fine with that.
Commissioner Coleman?
Agree with a sharing expense of 50-50.
50-50.
The next issue is with regards to pension and OPEBs, and the first issue is the appropriate amount of the prepaid pension assets. I am in agreement with staff's position on this, and I'm relying heavily on the written testimony submitted in full rebuttal by Matt Young, where he sets forth the historical treatment of this line item going back to the 1994 case. I don't think that there is persuasive evidence or documents put forth by the company, which has the burden of proof on the issue, to show anything beyond the 131 figure. So it's a super complex issue. I don't pretend like I understand it as well as I would like, but I don't think that Spire met its burden to show any amount, to prove an amount above the 131. So I'm with staff on this issue.
Mr. Chairman, I'd agree that this was a very complex issue, and I didn't quite understand the numbers and the way that the company came up with those numbers between 90 and 94. And so I think Mr. Young was persuasive in his testimony regarding the historical treatment of this pension balance. So I support staff on this.
Commissioner Root?
Yeah, I also was in support of staff for the similar reasons already been explained.
Commissioner Coleman?
Staff's position, please.
Commissioner Sylvie?
Staff.
Okay. next issue is SERP, the Supplemental Executive Retirement Plan. I'm with the company on that issue, though I think everybody agrees that the CERT payments should not be capitalized. The issue is whether they have been, and I don't believe OPC's position that that they had been previously was persuasive. Staff essentially argues that GAAP allows it to be capitalized, but doesn't make the argument that they have been. So I think we simply need to say that they should not be capitalized and they have not been capitalized.
No.
A man, a few words. Commissioner Root.
Yeah, I was with the company on this, but I think based off last week's, it was clear that there was votes for your position, so I'm fine with that.
Commissioner Coleman.
I support staff's position here also.
Staff.
Okay. Incentive compensation for employees. Again, I want to take these issues a little out of order. And I think we addressed this issue to some extent last week, but I think we need to revisit. The first is, and I think this issue was directly addressed last week, and that is on C, should they be permitted to include earnings based and or equity based employee incentive compensation amounts in base rates? And I think the answer we agreed to last week, or at least four of us agreed to last week, was no. We should not. We have a long history here not allowing incentive compensation to be based upon earnings and stock prices, and that position is consistent with what most utilities that I'm aware of nationally, most states have done as well. So I think the answer to that should be no, and that is staff and OPC's position on that issue.
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Roop.
Yeah, I was also with the company on this one, but realized that it's not the winning position. But I do believe that a lot of these companies still do provide it. They just don't seek recovery for it. So I'm glad to see that they still do provide those types of compensation incentives and benefits for their employees.
Yeah, and I'll just interject again. I mean, I completely agree with you in that companies are continuing to pay that incentive compensation, but they're just not covering those costs through base rates, and I believe that is completely appropriate. It's similar to lobbying. I mean, the company makes a decision that paying for lobbyists is in the shareholders' interests, and they cover those costs with shareholder dollars, not ratepayer dollars, and that's totally appropriate. So I agree. Commissioner Coleman.
I agree with the comments you just made relative to that, to the benefit, the cost of the benefit should be paid by who's benefiting from it. So I am in agreement with OPC's and staff's position on this.
Commissioner Sylvie.
Yeah, I completely agree. It should not be borne by the ratepayers, but it is appropriate if they want to do it on their own.
So then, moving from that issue to D, should they be permitted to capitalize? I think the answer is no, and that's probably clearly a result of the decision that we just reached.
I concur.
Commissioner Root.
I concur.
I agree.
Yep.
So then the third issue
A,
A.
page
Either A
12.
or E.
Is A, exactly. The appropriate amount of employee incentive compensation to include in base rates. I would take staff's position here and reduce the revenue requirement by that amount, which is attributable to employee compensation based upon earnings. And staff's number was 4.8.
And that's just the earnings-based
Correct.
number. I concur.
Commissioner Root?
Yeah, if that's how we're going to figure it, that's the correct amount.
I
Commissioner Coleman?
concur.
Yeah, just to clarify, the end of staff's position there is to still include incentive compensation for the union employees,
Yes.
which would be the
Well,
non-stock price based
well,
incentives.
we're still allowing employee incentive compensation. We're just not allowing it to be based upon earnings.
Correct, and those incentives would not be based on earnings. Therefore, we're still allowing them.
And 100% of the union-based
Yes, that's
incentives.
that answers your question. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
that's what I was getting. Okay, yes, I go with staff on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Bennett. And then the fourth issue is E. Whether or not we should make an adjustment based upon those prior decisions, and I would say no. I would take staff's position, and again, that is consistent with how we have treated this issue for the last 30 years.
Yeah, consistency, I would concur.
Commissioner Root,
I agree.
Commissioner Coleman.
I support staff's position.
Concur.
And that takes care of the issues with employee compensation, does it not?
Yes.
Okay. The next issue is rate design. And the first issue to resolve there is the customer charge. I am supportive of staff's position. Of course, it had a couple different positions, but that was $20 customer charge for MGE and a $22 customer charge for Laclede. And let's just go ahead and resolve that one first, and then we can get into the rate structure. Commissioner Kennedy?
Okay, so you don't want to do them both together, just the customer charge first?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Commissioner Root?
Yeah, I agree. 20 and 22 respectively.
I'm in
Commissioner Coleman?
support.
Commissioner Selby?
Concur.
Okay, so then the next issue is whether to establish an inclining block rate structure, and there was one that was proposed by staff that I'm supportive of with a modification, and that is I'd like to do the inclining block rate in the summer and do a level block rate in the winter. The winter is the time when there are a number of ratepayers that have to go above into that second block in order to heat their homes, and I don't want to penalize ratepayers for that in the summer. I don't believe that's less. I think that's less of a concern, and I would like to try to incentivize conservation to the extent possible. So I'm supporting inclining in the summer, level in the winter.
I can support that.
Commissioner Root?
I would have preferred to have inclining rates in both summer and the winter, but just if there's the vote just for the summer, then that's progress as well.
I agreed with inclining in the summer, level in the winter.
I support that position.
Okay. next issue is what to do with the weather mitigated residential rate design. I think that's resolved based upon the decisions we just made. Is it not, Judge?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So then the next issue is the weather normalization adjustment rider. And I think the company makes a pretty strong argument that we should establish such a rider, particularly in light of the fact that we did not adopt the RSM. I think that they're particularly, well, I think that they make the case that there are fluctuations that should be accounted for. So I would support putting the rider in place. The company had 3 specific objections to the tariff proposed by staff, though I think that they very much like the concept. The one that I believe they make a strong case on is concerning the 1% cap. They would go with a 5% cap, but that cap would not apply on downward adjustments, only for upward adjustments, and I can support that. I think that if we have a particularly cold January like we did, that would inure to the benefit of ratepayers. Other years that would clearly not be the case. The other 2 objections, I'm going to stay with staff on. I don't think we need to have 3 of these adjustments a year. I think 2 is sufficient, so that's my position.
I believe that we should allow the weather normalization adjustment rider since we are not giving them the RSM. And I'm fine with the 2 upward movements, and I can support your position on just allowing the 5% per therm cap.
Commissioner Root?
Yeah, I too was in support, but I found all 3 of the company's adjustments to staff's rider reasonable. So I'd be fine with all 3 of their adjustments.
Commissioner Coleman?
I'm in agreement with the position you put forth.
Commissioner Sylvie?
Wait, just so I'm clear, so you're good with 1, you're good with 2, Scott's good with 3.
No. The way it is now, there's two adjustments, correct?
Well,
we're allowing
staff,
2.
Staff's proposal, yeah.
Right. So I'm in agreement with the chairman.
Okay.
And so what we would be doing is going with the company's position on the 2nd,
Right.
but staff's position
Gotcha.
on the 1st and 3rd.
All right. Yeah, I support that position.
Okay. The next issue is the AMR meters. I believe it's the last issue. And though I was at the hearing, I was really leaning towards OPC's position that because these are capital items, that we should put them in rate base and depreciate as opposed to amortize. I think I've been convinced that doing so for this particular capital item would really be kind of messy, and even though I think from a pure accounting perspective that makes more sense, I think that it in light of the facts of this situation, the fact that these are used capital items, they only have 7 years left, there's going to be new ones coming in earlier, some of these may stay later, we should go ahead and amortize. So I would support doing that over the 7.5 year period. It's clear that this this decision to purchase these AMR devices will inure to the benefit of ratepayers. We're moving from roughly a 98-cent per read amount to somewhere around something under a quarter. There's a significant benefit to ratepayers, which is what makes this so difficult, at least for me, because the issue is what to do with the estimated $400,000 in additional property taxes and the additional $700,000 in maintenance costs. Neither of these amounts are known and measurable. Neither of these amounts under traditional rate-making practice would be included in rates. But I think it is just unfair to the company that took this action. It's going to directly benefit ratepayers, and we only look at half the ledger related to the transaction. So here's what I propose we do. I propose we establish a tracker for maintenance costs. Now, this is maintenance costs, not replacement. If they replace any of these AMR devices or put new batteries in, that's a capital expense. That should be capitalized, and we'll deal with that in the next rate case. But if there are maintenance costs that are outside of the contract with the vendor, those amounts will be tracked, at least based on my proposal. They'll be tracked for possible recovery in the next rate case. Concerning the property taxes, I propose that we look at that as a possible offset for the reduction in corporate income taxes that they'll be paying, and that's the issue that we'll take up at the February 5th hearing. So that's what I would do as a matter of fairness to the company for taking this action, which I applaud.
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, we will, the $400,000 in property taxes, that will be, we'll take that into account with the rest of the tax issues we've got coming up.
That's my proposal, yes.
And then on the request for funds maintenance outside and above the contractual obligations, we'll allow the company to track those, and then we can deal with that in the next rate case.
That's exactly my proposal.
I support that. I think that's an excellent compromise.
Commissioner Root?
Yeah, I'm in support of that proposal as well.
Commissioner
I
Coleman?
support the proposal.
Yeah, I support that.
I think that's all of the issues we need to discuss here. We have a hearing set February 5th on the tax issue. Is that right, Judge?
Yes.
And I should
It's
know
Monday.
this, but have the parties filed?
They filed the affidavits that we requested. Licklead or Spire filed an affidavit, and staff filed an affidavit. And so that's basically all we have for this part.
Okay.
We'll
All right.
Let's go from there.
Okay, anything else we need to discuss on?
I don't think so. I may
Okay.
be coming.
Okay.
I may be getting a little clarification.
Thank you.
Tell me again,
went
what is
quickly.
the,
The operational law date remains March 8th. However, I will say in their filings, Spire did say that they were willing to agree to allow the compliance tariffs to become effective. I think it was March 28th instead of March 8th, and that would allow the commission a little more time to get the report and order out, and then actually have sufficient time for those compliance tariffs to be filed and reviewed and so forth, given that there's going to be a lot of adjustments that need to go into those compliance tariffs because of the number of issues the commission's having to decide. So I would still propose that the commission issue an order on the 15th, depending on how the hearing goes on Monday. That
15th of
may,
February.
yeah, may or may not be
okay, so
a
that's the goal,
realistic
though.
goal.
Okay, that's the goal. All right, I would concur. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Scheduling. Immediately after agenda today, well, 5 minutes after agenda today, we'll have a Universal Service Board meeting in the agenda room. At 1:30 today, we have a workshop in our small water and sewer company docket. The rule that we're looking at concerns provisions to incentivize acquisition of small water and sewer companies, particularly troubled systems. And that is at 1:30 in room 110 here in the governor's office building. And then tonight at 5:30, we have a local public hearing in the Missouri American case here in room 450. That's Q&A at 5:30, and then at 6 we have the actual on the record local public hearing. Thursday, February 1st, local public hearings in the Missouri American Water case in Branson and Joplin. February 5th, we have the evidentiary hearing in Spire related to the corporate tax cut, federal corporate tax cut, and that's in room 310. Tuesday, February 6th, we have an evidentiary hearing in Morgan et al. Versus Mills et al. It's in room 310. Wednesday, February 7th, agenda scheduled for 1 p.m. And then Thursday, February 8th, we have a local public hearing in the Empire case concerning their application for approval of its customer savings plan. February 15th, Thursday, 1 o'clock, agenda. And 2:30, we have oral arguments and a motion for summary judgment in a Summit natural gas case. February 21st, agenda scheduled for 9:30. February 22nd, an evidentiary hearing in Gascony Water Company's rate case, and that would continue on to the 23rd. And then the 27th of February, we start Missouri Americans rate case.
Is that Tuesday the 27th?
It's 26, isn't it?
I've got it on the
26th.
26th on my
Okay.
calendar.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Monday the 26th.
Correct.
I stand corrected. And that gets us through February. Any further business coming before the commission?
No,
Seeing none, we are adjourned, and we will reconvene in 5 minutes.
Thank you,
for
Mr. Chairman.
the Universal Service Board meeting.
thank you.